Hi again. We're going to look at the last chapter before our first exam on language. Um, I've had a few technical difficulties with my computer's photo booth here, so I'm going to try to be a little bit more brief. It seems like the longer that the video goes on, it ends up cutting off on me. So one of the important, certainly you need to study in this chapter about the definitions that are given about the structure of language, such as grammar and syntax and other elements of language. I just want to stress a little bit about nonverbal communication because it's one that sometimes we tend to be less conscious of. But nonverbal communication is also important in our communication with each other. Things such as how our facial expressions can be symbolically meaningful. It's a way of communicating. How we stand can send a message. It can be symbolic. Our gestures, our movements, even those can be very unconscious to us. Many times it conveys information to those who are witnessing our behavior. So, the old saying, we may be saying one thing, but our nonverbal communication may be saying another. And then sometimes we're not very conscious of it, like at a job interview, for example, we may lose out on that possible hiring because of, not so much because of our verbal communication, but of our nonverbal kinds of, maybe the way we're dressed or how we stand, or do we seem to be extremely anxious, non-attentive, even if we don't mean those things. Not being sometimes conscious of it can lead to problems. And as well, nonverbal communication can be very successful as well. But one of the important things about nonverbal communication is sometimes it can be misinterpreted. And I'm going to show a video for you here shortly that a cultural anthropologist talks about her research on flirting behavior. And she's done extensive research across cultures in terms of flirting behavior. And I find it kind of very interesting. Students do too. But one of the main points she points out is sometimes males and females misread each other. So what we may think is flirting behavior may not be. And it kind of sort of leaves us in an ambiguous situation of whether one should approach the person or not, because while we may think they're flirting, they may not be. So there's that element of not knowing. But she tries to make us more aware of different cultural styles of flirting, and when it's seen or recognized, it may actually be such. But she's cautious. But one area I'd like for you to sort of try this out with your families or friends is kinesics. It's the study of space, how the space that we share when we're interacting. And this varies by cultures. So I want you to try a little experiment here with nonverbal communication. The next time, we're going to do 2 experiments, and I'll put up on the blackboard a little discussion where you can give your results. But here's what I want you to do. In our culture, when we want to just talk with a stranger, if we're interacting out say in the classroom, outside the classroom with a stranger, we usually stand anywhere from 4 to 5 feet away from each other, and that kind of seems comfortable. When we are in love with someone, our partner, or girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, maybe mom and dad, and when we talk about being intimate, we tend to be very close enough where we can touch each other. And, the whole thing of being embracing is usually from 0 to 18 inches, basically. If a stranger gets in within that range, probably even just a little further out than that, you may feel uncomfortable in our culture. Whereas in many Middle Eastern cultures, for a person who's gotten to know you a little, it could be male to male. For example, I've had this experience when I was a student in Canada with some of my Middle Eastern friends. Tend to stand closer during interaction. And I asked about this, because I felt a little uncomfortable with it, and I was told that it was called sharing the breath, is a sign of friendship. In our culture, that's uncomfortable for us. So what I want you to do is to try this experiment. So when you're with a loved one, instead of being intimate for a little bit, stand back. So your husband comes home or your girlfriend, instead of embracing, kind of stand away from them a bit and just interact with them in that fashion. Sit away from them, don't sit up underneath them, and just sort of stand back or act different. Stand back and see what kind of reaction you get. Usually, this is going to cause a bit of anxiety, or it'll cause a little anger because you've broken a norm, a behavior. It's subconscious, but nonetheless, it becomes apparent that you're doing something different. And when you're supposed to be a little bit of distance in social interaction with strangers, say in a store, maybe move in just a little bit closer. You don't have to actually hug them, but just get into their comfort zone just a little and see what kind of reaction you get. Now, don't do this with a police person or something like that, because that might be problematic for us. I guess you can blame your doctor here for causing any troubles, but basically with even with friends that you wouldn't normally be intimate with, maybe get up a little closer to them, or a coworker, and see what kind of reaction you get. So try both of these, and then we'll report on your outcome. Both are nonverbal communication skills, and so basically study this chapter and make sure that you touch base with the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis about how language helps to construct our world around us. And I'll stop here before we have any problems with my computer. Okay.